be one of the greatest, that is a vow, yeah, that is a promise. Always wanted to be famous, just being real, yeah, just being honest. My haters gon' always be nameless, give them no clout.
Hey now, it's your boy Isaac. You here with Talk with TeN, and I got a special guest, my girl Carlina. Nice to have you. She real estate development and content creator. Can you tell me a little about how you got into real estate development?
Real estate development has always been a long-term goal of mine. So the opportunity actually came up when I was low-key bothering a friend of mine that was a real estate developer, and I always would question him. I would ask him if he ever needed me for anything. I would make myself available. So the opportunity made itself present when the time came. One day he did have an opportunity for me to ride along with him, and from that day forward, we just kind of hit it off. I made sure that I was very helpful with all things. I was very hands-on when I did my ride-along with him. I was very intuitive, and I was just very enthusiastic, and I think that was just kind of like a match made in heaven for him at that point, too. So throughout that next year, him and I kind of partnered together, and I was able to kind of go through and walk along his current projects and newer projects throughout that year, and I really learned the basis of everything development.
You looked at him as your mentor, huh?
Absolutely. I still do.
Do you... Is it important to have a mentor or somebody to guide you through the real estate process?
I definitely think it's important for the sole being of there's a lot of shady business that can happen in the industry and in the field. So to have a mentor kind of help guide you along those those crevices and all of that, I think is very beneficial. It kind of helps you to avoid making costly mistakes. You're able to learn from an actual hands-on project that is in motion, and you can see what's going on. You can make good relationships with subcontractors. So I think it is very beneficial. And then, like I said, he's also still actually somebody I consider a mentor. So if I ever have a question or anything like that, I can always reach out.
What's some of the mistakes that you made or you've seen? Can you give us a story?
Some of the mistakes that can happen in real estate development, I mean, there's so many. You really want to kind of be present. I think that if you, as a developer, if you're not actively there on site, if not day to day, every other day while the project is in motion, I think that is a big mistake that can cost you. Allowing subcontractors to kind of come in and do their thing without anybody overseeing them, that can sometimes be a costly mistake because, say something as simple as a paint color on the wall. If, you select the paint color in the store and then you begin to see it on the wall and it doesn't match what you had in your vision, by the time you come back and visit, if you're not there on site often enough, they painted the whole home. And now you have to pay to get the whole home repainted again, when you could have caught it from one wall alone or something as small as that. So,
what areas are y'all targeting or do you target?
Right now, the areas, when I was partnering with a developer of mine, he really all around the Metroplex. Anytime an opportunity presents itself that we see is, a good opportunity. And same thing for me going forward. I mean, DFW is such a booming Metroplex right now. So it's just kind of I don't think there's really any wrong directions to go. You can go further north where they're taking Universal Studios now and they're building out, they built out that new golf course in Frisco and everything. You can go further south to Waxahachie area. Past 20, where they're now creating all of these subdivisions and everything like that. So I really think there's opportunity all around the Metroplex. Okay,
good. Dealing with, because you did flip and fixes, and you also did building from ground up. Which avenue do you think is the easiest for somebody to get in?
To get in, I would always probably recommend from ground up. I know a lot of people, I think it's really a personal opinion, honestly. It's really just a personal financial goal and a personal portfolio goal. I think is more in essence of what it is. But me personally, I would probably recommend going from ground up just because in renovations, you don't know always what's behind the wall. So you don't technically always know what you're getting into. So in your mind, you might look at a project and create a budget just off the top of your head, but then you actually get in there and you get behind these different things and you kind of come up with different problems. So now your budget now has to kind of expand a little bit more. But with the ground up, you kind of have an idea of what each point or what each phase in the project kind of costs already. So
with you being an entrepreneur in that stage, do you feel like anybody can do real estate, or you have to have a certain team around you or a certain mindset to go into real estate?
I think it's a good question. A team is always necessary in my mind.
Okay.
You can build together. It's hard to build as an individual, so I think a team is definitely necessary. I think the right mindset is really all you need to kind of win in real estate. There's different aspects of real estate to go into, whether you're doing, fix and flip, like you said, whether you're doing development, whether you're just doing home sales and rentals, different things like that. So I think it's just more of a mindset thing. You really have to have a person that wants it for themselves and like will carve out these opportunities and network and build these relationships going forward.
So if you have five group of people, male or female, and they each have $20,000, what would be their first step? Contacting you, finding a property by yourself, or do your real estate group help find the property, and how do they go?
I mean, I can do everything from helping find the property to building the property, so it's really to whatever extent that the person would need. If you have a group of people that come together and, like you said, if you have five people with $20,000, you have $100,000 on the table now. I would recommend going out and finding a lot, I don't know, maybe around like 60, 70,000. You want to reserve a little bit of working capital in the beginning as well. The lot you ideally want to buy cash. It just gives you a little more leverage throughout the project. And then by working capital, I mean like startup costs. So like, you can get a construction loan under a company. Which is what you would use out to build out your project and everything like that. But typically, most times, how the loans are structured, you can't pull your first draw until you get to a certain phase in your project. So most times, they would like to see foundation poured. So you would kind of need to cover all costs of labor and material up until that point. So that's what I consider working capital.
Can you give us a quick summary of A to Z, or how building from a ground up, what you need to do as far as go to the bank? If you don't have the five people, go to the bank, then you get your contractors. Can you give us an A to Z on how to do that?
Finding funding is first step. So there's different types of funding, so it really just depends on what type of structure that the person is interested in walking into. You can get bank loans, like first home loans. You can get, I think it's construction loans. So like as an entrepreneur, if they don't really want to like live in the home, there's different types of loans that they can get as far as like just being a business and building out like a rental property or something like that. They can even go into like private funding. So there's different types of funding that they can find. So once you have your funding secured, you find your lot, then you just kind of create your team of subcontractors. So you go, I have three different phases that I consider as far as like building out a home. So phase one would just be like the basis of what I said, everything up until foundation being poured. And then once foundation is poured, you begin the actual structure of the home. And then from there, it's just basically like design aesthetics, which is phase three.
Is it hard to sell a home right now?
I don't think it's hard to sell a home. I don't think I'm equipped to really answer that, but just knowing the market and having a bunch of real estate friends and connections, I don't think selling a home is the hardest part. I think if you create a beautiful home, something that somebody wants to live in, and with everybody migrating to the Metroplex already, I think the product kind of sells itself. So as long as your product is, an eye-catching product, or, it can sell itself. So I don't think that's a hard thing at all.
Getting real estate and getting commercial real estate kind of go hand in hand, correct?
They go hand in hand, but they are two different sides of the field completely. So
is getting apartments or getting extra doors hard?
Getting extra doors, I think, is probably a different side of funding that I probably wouldn't know as much about because I'm more in residential. So anything from 4 doors and under is ideally what I build out, because these are like what they consider single family homes. So even if you have a 4-plex, that's still ideally called a single family home. What
would be the first thing that you'll tell somebody that want to be in your shoes or want to do what you do?
Don't give up. Keep going. Make connections as much as you can. Make yourself available to learn. I think a lot of people, they look at real estate development and they think it's, it looks good and it's fancy, but it's very hard work. There's a lot of steps to learn, so you really need to like be equipped to be a student in the field. And like I said, making the connections and just being enthusiastic about it. I mean, it'll really kind of like come to you once you really kind of put your heart and mind to it.
Okay. Do you seek out other people, or you let people come to you? Because I was in this real estate group one time, and they had us doing I wouldn't even say the old school method, the methods that's been proven to work, which is going to see who got high grads, going to knock on doors, going to pass out business cards? Are you more on that, or are you more on the new age, people coming to you, market on Instagram? Can you give me the different types of marketing or ways to get clients or business?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I would probably consider myself a little bit of both.
Okay.
Just because
You have to be a little bit of both
you got
too.
to be a little bit of both.
But this generation.
And in the generation, and I think the younger generation, maybe, I think they look at it to be a little more convenient. But I mean, I like being hands-on for one. I like making connections. I like seeking out opportunities. So I'm always going to look for ways to meet somebody, rub elbows with somebody, get in these different rooms, network. And I mean, that's just really kind of like how you build. That's the basis of building your company and getting involved in the field. And secondly, you don't also want to miss out on the opportunity to build online.
Yeah.
So social media and putting yourself out there, letting people know, exposing yourself, just kind of like it doesn't even matter like at what stage you're at. I started putting myself out there like when I first started getting in the field, making mistakes, telling people like, hey, I'm a student in the industry. A lot of people want to come in and like already want to be masters in the field. And I mean, it's just kind of hard to come into a field that you don't really know anything about and master it, So you have to be willing to sit there and learn and like put yourself out there like that, because people are receptive to that. They are willing to share information. So the more that you kind of like make yourself available to receive it, they want to share it.
Okay. With you when you was a student, can you give me a mistake you made that can probably help somebody that shouldn't make the same mistake?
Yeah, I mean, let me think. One good one. Probably in the beginning, just not networking more.
Okay.
Just being hesitant on like not knowing everything. So I think I felt nervous about like meeting people and letting people know like, hey, I'm just now coming into the field. Like I'm a month into learning about building a home. I don't really know that much. So I think I probably shot myself in the foot by not putting myself out there a little more and letting people know like, hey, I'm serious about getting out here. Like I'm only a month in, but I'm for real. Like I'm not doing. I'm gonna do this for the next years of my life in essence. So I think that was probably one of my biggest mistakes. I didn't really start getting comfortable with like putting myself out there and probably till like the end of the first year.
Yeah.
And I really missed in essence a whole year to kind of like capitalize on building connections and networking at that time. So I think that was probably the biggest thing.
With you putting yourself out there, that led to you content creating. Can you give me some steps how you prepare to make a video, or where do your mind go on what type of video to make?
Content creation, I think, kind of came to me off the whim of like being in the field of development. I was really passionate about everything that we were doing at that time and everything that I was doing. I loved the homes. I loved every stage of building. So, of course, I wanted to kind of like show people, like this is my passion. I'm loving what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing day to day. So that kind of like created the start of content creation, because I started to get a lot of like different questions and responses and like, hey, what area are you in, or what house is this? What square footage? How did this, how did y'all make this look like this? Or how did you do this, and things like that. So when I started to interact more online, I started to realize like, hey, there's a whole other opportunity here to kind of like network and create more opportunity and space for myself online. So I started off that way. I
think one of the biggest thing is being your own critic. It's a gift and a curse, because you nitpick at so much, not you in particular, but people people nitpick at so much, it'll make them not want to post it. Did you ever go through a time like that?
Yeah, I mean, I still go through times like that. I mean, I'm not perfect at this at all by any means. I can't tell you how many probably videos and pictures and things I have on my phone now that I haven't posted that are probably like a great time, a great thing to post. But I mean, it's just one of those things. Like you said, I am my biggest critic. I am trying to get more out of my head with that now, though, because I'm starting to realize no matter how good or bad the video is, interaction is interaction, so as long as I'm creating some type of flow on my page and on my socials, then it's all beneficial.
How often do you post?
I try to post every other day. Daily is really the goal that I'm trying to get at. If I'm going to do a more long-term version of a post, then I'll probably do maybe like twice a week. So I guess it really just depends on like how long of a post that I'm trying to do, or what type of style of post. Okay.
With being a content creator, What is what are some of your goals out of that? Is it to just get more clients, to become rich, to become famous? What's some of your goals out of that?
Rich and famous definitely isn't the goal. They can be sidelines. Rich for sure. I think the main goal is just more opportunity for me and my son. Honestly, I went into content creation for my real estate development, but I'm kind of more so turning around into like lifestyle content.
Yeah.
More so of like what I do on a day to day. And development isn't just my only thing that I do. I am a full time mom. I'm a hands on mom at that, so I put a lot of that in there as well. So when I say opportunity, I mean opportunity for myself and clientele as far as development, opportunity for myself and my son as far as whatever opportunity can come for him and partnerships and things like that, because he's a big personality as well. He loves to be online. And I mean, he's just really good with like socials. I can't even like describe it, but he is. So just whatever presents itself. We're here for all things positive, and we like to influence all things positive.
Can you take us through a day in the life of your most busiest day of being a real estate developer and a content creator?
Sure. So day in the life of everything, it would be first and foremost getting up, getting my son to school, getting him together, coming back, getting myself together. I always start my days off by prayer. I'm a big believer in my faith, so I have to walk hand in hand with my God in everything
first.
that I do. So I always like to ask him to order my steps throughout the day to make sure that I'm not, mistaking anything. Ideally, or not ideally, but most times a busier day requires like a lot of meetings, whether it be with like a developer, whether it be with a subcontractor, plans and preparations for a project. So like planning out what the next phase and steps are, scheduling. Once I complete any type of development, hands-on project that I'm doing that I have to be there for, then I have to come back home. I have to wrap up my day with my son, do my pickup, and then if I'm doing any type of posting, I try to wrap it up and post at a certain time as well.
Do you post content on a timely manner? Do you have an app to post it on time?
I've noticed my content does a little better at certain times, so I do try to stick to more around the same schedule.
What time is it?
Posting. I feel like my content does better like after hours, not necessarily after hours, but like after work hours. So like between the hours of like 6 and 9, I like to post.
Okay, I didn't hear you talking about working out. Working out been a big journey of your life lately.
I can't believe I actually left that part out because I am a big workout head. Working out is a big part of my life. I work out about 3 times a week. So if it is one of my workout days, just slide in my workout right after my prayers.
What time do you get up?
I get up, my day starts at 7, most times like 6:30 actually.
6:30? Mm-hmm. I feel like the best time to work out is in the morning. It's a hard task though, but that's like the best because you get to knock out everything and not get drained from your day, then have to go work out.
Absolutely. Workout motivates me. It gets my blood flowing. It gets me pushing for my day. It gets me excited for my meetings.
Did you come from a big family?
I did come from a big family, yes.
Where are you from, and can you give me a little bit about your childhood?
I'm from Oak Cliff, Texas, but my family is from Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
I have 3 siblings down here. I have an older sister and a younger sister. We're all from Dallas, Texas, and we were born and raised here. I went to Townview High School. After high school, I went to college for a few years, but honestly, I kind of went right off into entrepreneurship. I've been doing this entrepreneurship thing for 15 years now.
Do you feel like your family molded you, or your upbringing molded you into being an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I think everything has an influence on my life, whether big or small. My upbringing helped mold me. My mom was more structured, so she had the typical 9 to 5, retirement fund and everything like that. My dad was probably complete opposite. He operated a couple of different clubs, and so he just kind of like had that entrepreneurial mindset. But it never really panned out to really be much more than, a couple of different clubs and anything like that. So he kind of had to always find different things to continue on to do in being an entrepreneur. But watching the balance between, I think, both of my parents kind of helped me and motivate me to kind of help find that balance in entrepreneurship. Like, I do want to have my freedom of schedule, but I also want to have more structure. Entrepreneurship is like absolutely one of the hardest things I've done behind being a parent. Because, a lot of people come into the field and they feel like, oh, I want to do entrepreneurship because I want to have freedom of time. I don't want to answer to anybody, things like that. But honestly, you do have to answer to somebody. You have to answer to yourself. And sometimes that's the hardest person to answer to. You have to be honest. You have to carve out real time, real schedule. You have to make something really happen for yourself.
Being honest is a gift and a curse too, because you somewhat have to be delusional to push through the honesty. Because if you be honest with yourself on content creation, you probably would never post nothing. Ooh, my hair not right. Ooh, I ain't got on no lip gloss. Let me drink some water, because.
There you go, critiquing yourself.
Yeah, so you have to be delusional and just push through everything.
I say you have to be faithful and
Faithful?
push through everything, yeah.
Lean on God.
Yeah, lean on God, because I mean, you know, like it always says consistently throughout the Bible, God is the maker and creator of all things. With him, all things are possible. You know?
Amen.
So, you know, you look at things and you look at those small petty things like, oh, my hair isn't right, or this and that and this and that. And it's like, oh, well, with God, all things are possible. You know, if it's meant to be, it shall be, you know. So you just kind of have to keep pushing and push through those like small voices in your head.
You got to.
Mm-hmm.
Or with you having a son and 3 sisters, can you give me a take on being family oriented or working with family? Do you work with your family? Or?
Not currently, but one of the main reasons that I am coming into development is to hopefully build out a family project that we can all come together on in the near future. So that is something ideally that will be one of my next goals and that I plan to make happen very soon. So.
And piggybacking off goals, what are some of your goals? I know that's more of a long-term goal. What are some of your short-term goals in real estate development and content?
Well, I just want to continue to build my portfolio for now, continue to kind of like learn a little bit more tricks of the trade. And then further along the line, I would like to bring together some type of crowdfunding where, you know, I can try to recruit a couple of different individuals, very small circle, that we can all kind of come together on a project, and I can kind of like help share the knowledge. Because I know a lot of people are like curious about how to get into the field. They don't know where to go. You know, they might need the help like I did when I found my mentor. So I would like to, in essence, give back and turn around and be somebody else's mentor and give them an opportunity as well.
Do you look at giving back in that opportunity and start as far as giving back to your community? Is that going to piggyback off? Have you started giving back to your community in any way?
I mean, I'm always volunteering throughout my community and giving back in my own like small ways. Obviously, I will always try to give back in my community. In my mind, like I can envision me like giving back in my community in a way of like maybe helping to like refurbish a park that may be run down that the city doesn't want to help rebuild yet or something like that. If I have the right subcontractors now that I have in place, you know, I know that I can now send them out and come out of my own pocket and do small things like that throughout my community. So I definitely have different plans and goals of mine that I plan on doing for mine.
Can you give me something that you're doing to help further your knowledge, or can you give some tips for the up and coming entrepreneur to help further your knowledge? Are you reading any books right now?
I am reading a book. A friend of mine said it actually isn't about entrepreneurship though. We have this book club that we have started just to kind of like keep ourselves grounded. So the book that we are currently on is The Awe of God. And so, I mean, it's a faith-based book, but I mean, it's just one of those things, like I said, that kind of helps me in my entrepreneurship. It keeps me focused and keeps me grounded in my faith and keeps me encouraged to keep going.
Okay.
So that's my next read.
Okay, that's dope. How many books do you try to read a year?
I don't know if I have a goal, like,
okay,
but I just try to keep reading. So as many as I can get. If I finish one, I'm going to try to keep going to the next. I try not to get stagnant. You know, it's hard, but, you know, I got to keep pushing through that. And then also I am going to currently study my real estate license just for the sake of, like, closing out my project. So, like, when I develop a house, I can sell
You can get that 6% yourself. Mm-hmm. I told myself I was going to get a real estate license, actually, too. I was just looking on Groupon. I don't know if Groupon is the place to go.
Yeah,
but I was just
agent on Groupon.
Yeah, I was looking at Groupon. It's only $2.79, so I was thinking about doing that. Me and my line brother was just talking about it. And that's just to close the gap on, like what you said, I need all the money. But it's better to have a team and not try to take over the whole pie too. Because the biggest thing is freeing up your time. Mm-hmm. You need your time more than you need the money. That's why a lot of people be depressed with the money, because they don't have the time, the companionship, the friendship to go along with the money, and then lead them very lonely.
Agreed. Freedom of time is my biggest goal. I mean, the money is cool, but the time is mine.
That's the time. The time is the biggest thing. I don't mind giving up that percentage to have my time.
Absolutely. And you also want to, like, you know, like you said, you can't come into the field and like try to capitalize on everything, you know, jack of all trades, master of none is what the saying is technically. So, I mean, you want to kind of hone in and figure out what you can master on, and then just kind of let that create your revenue and your money, and then you find some other way to create passive income. But you kind of got to let the specialist specialize in what
Facts,
they do.
but you just want to know about a lot, so people not getting over on you. That's all my questions about real estate. I got a part, real estate in your content. I got a part where it's talk with TeN about current topics, and one current topic right now is Anthony Edwards.
Edwards. Okay.
Do you know about his situation?
I've heard about it. I've read a little bit online on the blog.
So I'm just gonna pick your brain and get a little insight on what a female will be thinking about the situation. Putting yourself in her shoes. Okay. Putting yourself in her shoes or his shoes. Just give me your opinion on how would you handle that situation? What would you do? You can't force a man to have a baby, to keep a baby, but how would you go? Would you have did anything different in her shoes, or?
Oh man, I mean, this is such a controversial topic, you know, and I know everybody's like, oh well, you can't force a man to keep a baby. Absolutely, I definitely agree, but I always come back to the reality of it takes two to make a baby.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like if somebody has put themselves in a position to kind of like procreate, then, I mean, you have put yourself in a position to kind of like take accountability for whatever happens from that situation. It's kind of hard to place all of the blame on one specific person. So I kind of look at that as being a little bit unfair. Yeah. And I know the power of money has the power of influence. So it's kind of hard to like say this and then be heard or actually felt. So I think that's just a very sticky situation. I hate that for all parties involved, honestly, because I know, you know, that I don't feel like anybody's really happy with the outcome of anything. And the biggest party that's going to be hurt behind it is the little innocent child.
Thanks.
So I think it's just a really unfortunate situation. I can't really advise anybody on what they should have done different or, you know, anything like that. I know what my own personal self would do in the situation, you know, my own personal opinion. As far as like, you know, procreation, I love kids. I'm excited to have another kid. So if God presents me with another opportunity to have a baby, you know, then I'm going to like just walk through those steps and see what comes.
If the man decides to pay you $1.5 million to never contact him again, would, because he is in the media that he paid 1 point something million to all his child support up front, would you allow the child to know his father in the future if the father changes his mind?
Oh yeah, if he changes his mind, because I was about to say, I think there's like legal obligations behind that. But yeah, if he changed his mind, I mean, I would have to give that decision to the child. Okay. You know, I'm sure at that point in time, the child will probably be, oh, these kids are super smart. So by the time the child is like 4 or 5, you know, I'm sure they would probably catch on. So yeah, I would just have to like really sit down and ask the child, and I mean that comes with knowing your kid too, you know, and knowing how they would probably respond and how it would affect them emotionally and their future and things like that. But I don't know, that's a tough one. I would hate to hold somebody from knowing their own child. Everybody makes mistakes, so it's kind of like, you know, you kind of want to leave a little room for growth if they kind of like come around in the long run of things. Facts. So yeah,
them relationships hard to repair too, so it's definitely. I wouldn't have gave up my rights because, like you said, it take two to make the child. So it's really on, but I don't know what Anthony was going through, so I just let him know, don't close all doors because you might have a change of heart, you might grow up a little bit more. That's my opinion on it.
He's a young athlete, you know, there's so much coming at them at one time. It's just, it's hard to kind of navigate through that world right now, you know, coming into it, and it's just, I'm sure it's just like a big old whirlwind of things, so I don't know. I'll wish them luck on that one for sure.
Okay. Last question, how do you find peace? Do you have hobbies? I know 90% of life is work and your kid. Do you have a way to unwind? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, you have to find a way to find time for yourself. Doesn't matter how big or small. My workouts are a big part of me unwinding and finding time for myself. They're a big stress reliever. I'm a heavy lifter, so I really get in there and get at it. So I think that's probably like one of my biggest things that I do to unwind. And I like to get into my books when I sit down in my quiet time after bedtime. And my prayers, honestly, sometimes I can get really deep into my prayers. It really takes a few minutes of mine, and I really come out of those prayer moments rejuvenated and refreshed. So
I seen you got into Pilates. Was it hard?
Pilates was Pilates. It was cute. I just wanted to try it out.
It got you good stretching.
It was different. I liked it. I've always been a yoga head anyway, so I feel like it was just kind of like a more strenuous type of yoga. But nothing is ever gonna take away my weight. It was just the two can't compare.
Come on now. You can tell the camera where they can find you at and how they can reach out to you.
Sure. You can find me at Instagram. I am at Carlina Elise on all socials, actually. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Hey now, it's your boy Talk with TeN, and that's the end of the interview.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having me.
Carlina.